Hello, everyone. Welcome to Crossroads.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello,
I'm Jody. Down
Athena.
below is Mr. Anthony. Haven't seen him for a while. And then
I
there's
know.
that
It's been a
on the
while.
angle. Oh, the other angle is John. And our special guest tonight is Athena. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Crossroads.
Oh,
We
thank
haven't
you.
had you on for a while. It's nice to see you
I
again.
know. I miss you guys.
I miss you too.
Yes.
I haven't seen you in a while.
I know. I know.
So, how's everybody doing?
Oh, fine. Spring's around the corner, right?
Oh, thank God.
Yes.
I know this weather is really up and down, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's
We're
horrible.
supposed to
The
have
one day
rain.
I was out there and it was so warm, and then the next day it was freezing cold. I had my jacket on again.
And we're supposed to get rain on the weekend? Again?
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly Sunday, at least by us. It's supposed to thunderstorm, maybe?
Yeah. I'd rather have thunderstorms than snow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah. Please no
Thunder
more
snow.
snow.
Listen,
They
I
were
was gonna
saying
say,
that
Snow.
on the news today. They were talking about how a few years ago we had snow in March.
I believe it. I
You
mean,
guys
there were
remember
times
that?
that we had. I remember having snow when it was Easter.
In April, we had
Yeah.
really bad snow the one year. Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember that. Well, today our special guest is Athena, and I need you to tell everybody all about yourself before we start the show. For those people
Oh,
who
okay.
don't know who you are.
So I'm Athena, and I'm actually a medium. So I'm known in the field because I see angels. So, and I got into this way over like 20 years ago now, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I got into the field because of what was happening. We had a bad haunting. And I'm known for because I've seen Mary, I've seen the Blessed Mother, I've seen Jesus. When I was critical, I saw God. Um, I worked on private investigations, not for a long time, just for a little bit, and done a whole bunch of stuff. So I've actually worked with I know I worked with you, Anthony,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit.
Yes.
John, I known you for a long time.
I
And I know you, Jody.
know you
So,
know me.
but yeah, I mean, I was normally in the field. I work more on the darker cases because the angelic side. So I normally give it from the perspective of being the victim. So I understand it on that and a lot of time.
Okay.
So more possession cases or dark cases and stuff.
Do you do readings for people?
Actually, no. I have done a little bit of readings. Most of the time, no, I don't have the time to really do readings. For a little bit, I actually got very sick. So with being sick, even I stepped away from private cases because of that. Because I would be the weakest link in the case. So that was something that a lot of people don't really understand. When you're working on private cases and everything like that, it affects you a lot. So also your own health, if you're not on par, you can actually get walloped as well too. But a lot of people would ask me, especially with being I'm a hairdresser, so a lot of people, when they know you're a medium, they're like, "Do you give readings?" I'm like, "Actually, no, I don't really do that. If I see something and hear something, I tell people what I hear." It's one of those things where you actually do it. I know John has told me quite a few times that that's what I am supposed to be doing. I am supposed to be doing readings and everything. It's just a lot of times with work, I'm just so busy. And by the time I get home and I'm sitting down, it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it's hard. And I work, when people have off, that's my busiest time. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my days off. Before that, I was working 6 days a week for 8 years, 12-hour days. So yeah.
So if you're doing somebody's hair and you see something, do
Mhm.
you tell them about it?
Sometimes I do. Yeah, actually. I still remember, I tell this a lot. There was this one girl that I was doing her hair for a little bit, and she was talking. And as she was actually talking, I saw a picture, and it was a black and white. And it was very interesting. So I knew it was a photograph, and you just kept seeing it. And as a medium, when it becomes so repetition and becomes annoying, you're supposed to give the message. And a lot of times you see it, and first off, you like throw it to the side. But when it becomes very annoying, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to actually give the message. It's so annoying at this point. I actually have to. And I know that sounds negative and not nice, but it just won't go away. It persists. So I remember saying to her, I said, okay, who's this woman? And I described what she looked like. I said, someone has a photograph of her. It's a photograph. I said, and she has pearl earrings because she keeps showing me her earrings. It's very important. It's something about the earrings she keeps showing. And she says, wow. It sounds like my grandmother. And then she goes, no, it sounds like my mom's grandmother. And as soon as she said that, I heard the woman say to me, they don't know. But I know she has it they have it in a box in the closet. And it was so funny because the way she said it, I actually laughed. And I even said that to her. I said something about her earrings. And I said, and she says, literally like that, they don't know, but I know they have it in a box in the closet.
And that's how she said it.
Oh my God. It was hysterical. And she called her mom while she was processing because I had to do someone else. And when I got back to her, she goes, oh my God, I just got off the phone with my mom. And I told my mom what you said. And she goes, that sounds like my grandmother. And we have her pearl earrings in a box in the closet. And I was dying laughing. I was like, well, she knows. And I'm not sure she likes that.
Get them out and put them in.
Yeah. So, I've actually seen quite a few things, but most of the time I try not to tune in. The one thing that was actually very interesting, it was actually not that long ago, probably about like 8 months ago. One of the girls at work was actually working on a woman, and I kept seeing this little girl, and she literally walked up to me, this little child, and she tried to constantly hand me a flower. And then I kept getting images, and it finally became very persistent. Like I actually had to walk over. And these are the points where you're trying to think, should I interrupt a conversation? Should I tell you what I'm seeing? Should I not? And it was a little Spanish girl. I could see exactly what she looked like. She had a dress. Now, the interesting part is she kept holding. And there's some things that you see and you're like, is this real or is this part of my imagination? Because my mind recognizes and understands it in this way. So she was holding a red balloon. And I'm like, wow, this got Stephen King vibes all over it. I was like, holy freaking cow. And she just kept holding a balloon, and she had like a suitcase down at her feet. And all I kept thinking, and then after, it's like playing charades. Once you get one clue and you accept the one clue, it goes on to the next, the next, and the next. As soon as I saw that, then I kept seeing this man. And then I saw, and I kept hearing, the girl would say to me, tell my family I'm okay. Tell my family I'm okay. And I knew she was passed on. She was a young girl, like maybe 6, 8 years old. They don't tell me the age. I'm just looking, so I'm interpreting what I'm seeing.
You're just guessing it.
Right. She was definitely Spanish. She had the long dark hair, and she had this dress on. And all I kept thinking is she must have been taken. And something happened to her. The only thing I kept thinking with the red balloon is maybe something happened. And I kept seeing a work van. It was a blue work van. Once again, it kept getting Stephen King vibes, like it was a work van. So someone took her. Someone definitely, I'm assuming she died. So something happened to her. So I'm assuming that someone in the family, maybe it happened at a park or something. So when I went over to the stylist, because she was talking to the lady, and I'm trying to interrupt without interrupting. And then finally I said, I really need to say something. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, there's a young Spanish girl that I keep seeing. I don't know if you have or know of. And it came down to it is this woman works in, I'm assuming, homicide cases or some cases. And I explained what I saw, and she goes, well, I'm actually working on a case right now, or because she works on many, I'm assuming. And she says, and there is a young girl, and she is Spanish, that I'm working on. And I said something about the family. She goes, well, it's funny that you say about the family because we actually think the family's involved.
Oh.
So, but there's somebody that this little girl wanted me to know, tell my family that I'm okay. So somebody in the family, and she's okay, even though she's passed over, but I kept seeing that, and it was very persistent. For me to come to you, it's very persistent, and I need to get the message. But the interesting part is I really saw her. Like most of the time it was like, it's normally in your third eye and it's right there. It's imagination. Not that it is your imagination, but it's like that. This girl was standing next to me and she was literally handing me a flower. And
does the red balloon signal something? Because you always say there's certain signals for different.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking it must have meant something. I don't know. All I know is, though, after I got one clue, the other clue came in. And I saw the work van. And I know the next day, I actually went up to the stylist. I said, can you please tell her something about a work van? I don't know if maybe. And I explained what the man looked like and everything. So I don't know. These are things you do the best you can do.
You think she was kidnapped and killed?
Yeah, definitely killed. She's definitely gone. She definitely was gone. And she's okay, with that. She was okay with it. Something must have been her journey. Because that's the other thing is a lot of times, a lot of people I don't think understand. We have journeys and lessons that we learn in this life. Mm-hmm. Some people, and I experience this and I understand this. You chose to experience things in this life before you even came here. So that must have been, and sometimes the lessons, because it's not just us that are learning. We're all different pieces to the puzzle. We're all like a chessboard. So not only do we have a lesson to learn, other people that are within our lives learn other lessons as well. Now, it's not the same lesson, but we're all playing different roles in the part.
Okay.
So she was okay, because that's all she kept saying is, tell them I'm okay. Tell them I'm okay. It wasn't telling, me to find me or anything. It was tell them I'm okay.
She's at peace.
Yeah, she's at peace. And the interesting part is the flower she was trying to hand me. It was a tropical flower. And it was very interesting. Yeah, it was very, very interesting.
Probably the location she's at.
Maybe, possibly. But I know that, like I said, a lot of times when I see things, it's in my, your third eye. And she was standing right next to me. That actually was she was there. And actually at a couple of points I was like, because I'm blow drying. I'm here blow drying, working on a client. And here's this little girl trying to hand me a flower. And I'm like, oh my God, she really has a message to say, Yeah. Yeah. And it was,
Anthony, we do miss Sabrina, if that's who you're talking about.
Her message, Paul. Her message didn't show up on StreamYard, but
no, but I had to figure out what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I see her message on the Facebook.
No, I don't.
Facebook on the live, yeah, but not. I don't know why it's not popping up on there. That's weird.
Oh, there it is. I see it on Facebook, but not on there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Anyway.
Yeah, we do miss you, Sabrina.
Oh, I miss Sabrina. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but no, I don't do private only because I'm so busy all the time. So because I get multiple people that will ask me, and I always feel bad because I'm like, I'll pull a card for you when I get home. I'll do that. Oh my God, I remember one of our friends in our group, and I'm not even going to mention it because it was more of a personal thing. And I remember he messaged me because he wanted to know something. And a lot of times, too, if I do readings, I explain to everybody, I don't let you ask me questions. I tell you what I'm being told to tell you. Because sometimes what you want to know and your guides want you to know are two different things.
Right.
And I still remember it was so funny as I'm shuffling, because most of the time when I'm shuffling, I'm tuning in. So when I'm tuning in, that's when I see everything. I sometimes I don't even want to like read the reading. I'll throw it down, but it's more or less I'm focusing. And I saw his guide sitting in front of me, and he was so mad. And he's pounding his hands on my table, going, he's not listening. All of these questions he wants is not even important. It's not important and it's irrelevant. He's not listening to his purpose. And I go, listen, I know you want to know this. I said, but I'm not even going to go further. I said, I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing right here. And I described what his guide looked like. And it was definitely a non-human entity and stuff. And he goes, yeah, that's what my guide looks like. I said, oh yeah, he's mad. He's literally pounding his hands on my table, telling me you're not listening. He goes, yeah, I hear that all the time. And he goes, but and then he's skipping forward to what he wants to know, and I'm like, this is a personal problem, but you're way out of what you're supposed to be doing. You're like, this is irrelevant. And that's what they keep telling you is what you're focusing on and wasting your energy on isn't what's even relevant. You have a purpose and you're far away from it right now. And they're angry at you. They're like, he wanted to know if his girlfriend was like that. They broke up if his girlfriend was cheating on him. And I was like,
who cares now, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, and it was funny because his guide was like literally hammering the table, just like, this is stupid. Like, you're not following your purpose. Like, what you're even looking for is irrelevant. And I found that a little interesting, and because the emotions and everything. And I was like, hey, I'm just telling you like it is. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I know, they tell me that all the time. I'm like, well, you need to listen, because obviously you're not listening. So I'm getting in trouble because you're not listening.
It's the way it always is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it was funny though, because when I saw him, I went, whoa. I said, so this is what your guide looks like? And I'm explaining how his eyes looked, everything. He goes, yeah, actually, that really is my guide. I went, yeah. I said, and he's not human. He goes, no. I went, no.
So what kind of events do you have coming up, Athena?
I'll be at the Gettysburg Bash.
Woohoo.
So I'll be there. I missed everything last year from starting the new job. And I'll be at Perry Unity this year. So, and I'm hoping to sign up for the Selma Psychic Fest.
When is the Psychic Fair?
I don't know. I have to think of that.
Are you?
When is it?
It's usually in September.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought it was later. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have one this year. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'll definitely pick one of the Selma events. Normally, because that's the thing is like I can't do that many events with working. Right. So it's so hard because my busiest times are the weekend.
Well, they have the craft fair coming up.
I know. I couldn't do it. It was too soon and everything. So
I'm bringing my grandson so he can carry everything for me because I can't lift all that stuff. I'll put him to work.
What about Penhurst? Are you going to be at Penhurst this year?
You know what? I went and it was sold out.
Oh, the vendor sold out.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to reach out to anybody and say, hey, is there a table still? I was like, forget it. And I'm like,
just ask Gina. She'll get you in there.
Well, I was like, I'm not even, not that I was like, I didn't want to overstep my bounds.
Yeah, there could be space issues with that.
Yeah, so I was.
Hi, Stacy. Stacy says hi.
Hi, Stacy. Oh, yeah.
So, but, because that's the other thing is I didn't do anything last year. So, sometimes people forget about you.
No, we didn't forget you.
Thank you.
He's like, no.
But no, I actually felt bad because I was actually supposed to do Penhurst the year before. And what happened was I was waiting for all of my, you get all the like the instructions of what time to show up, everything. I'm like, why am I not getting anything? I should be getting information. And I looked in, and I went to do my payment, and I never confirmed it. I never sent the thing totally. So I thought it went through and everything. And I never checked my email. I never check my emails. I've got like 10,000 emails. I never check it. And I went to type in. I went, no, I don't have it. I did. And I saw the email. It was like a month before, like, hey,
Oops.
did you want to like send your payment? I'm like, I did. And I'm going through, I'm like, holy crap, I didn't. I was like, oh my God. And by then it was too late. I felt so bad when I saw Gina. I was like, listen, I'm so sorry.
Way to go.
Yeah, I know. Go figure. Yeah. And I think I was supposed to be inside that year. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
I did. I chose to be. That didn't happen.
And they're not having any vendors indoors this year either.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's all outside with the canopies and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes this year.
Yeah.
Well, my grandson and I are going to be helping this year. Woohoo.
Ooh. I definitely want to do it, but that's another. Is it a 2-day event or a 3-day event?
2 days,
Two.
isn't it?
Friday,
2 days.
Saturday, Sunday. Well, Friday, I think, is the VIP. Not
Hi,
100%,
Joe.
but definitely Saturday. Was it Saturday and Sunday? Yeah, it's the print.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
I think there's something, maybe a Friday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be making tons of cupcakes and cookies and taking them and giving them to all the vendors. Going to fill their bellies up.
Absolutely. How many vendors are there this year? There's
I don't know.
and stuff.
I said to
last
Gina, I'll
year.
give them to you. You can sell them. She says, no, give them out to everybody. It's fine with me.
Mhm.
I think last year they were indoors and outdoors. You'd probably say maybe like what, Anthony, about 150 maybe?
There was a lot.
There was
Mhm.
a lot, yeah. Well, plus under the big tent outside. So I'd say probably over 150 easily.
I'll talk to Gina and talk. Well, not for obviously not this year, but I'll talk to her about like making sure I like put a little whisper in somebody and be like, "Watch out for me! I want to do the following year."
Well, you can always come and walk around.
Well, that's the thing is it's one of those where
It's a long day too because there's so many
well,
vendors.
well, yeah, I have to even see, and not only that though, too, is because like being with work and everything. I mean, I'm super busy, so and with I book out like a while, so it's so hard. It's one of those where it's hard for me. I wish I could do more conventions. I really do. I do know one thing. Once I start really nailing down my research project, I will have to do more because I'll need to be there to actually get that out, that information. And yes,
Which
John,
research
I am going to be writing a book.
Oh, I was going to say, are you writing a book?
Yeah.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah. So I already got my thing to put down and write my book and my story and stuff like that. It'll
Make
be.
sure you sign one for me.
I will. It'll be my talks with Michael.
Brenda.
So
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Listen,
My talks with Michael. So
With my experiences with him and working with that's definitely some interesting stuff. And I'm like, a lot of people will really be, interested to know more about what you've experienced with him.
what I actually found was really interesting is because he's the one who actually brought me to see Mary when I saw Mary quite a few times. So, and I didn't, because when you go through this, you're constantly researching to see what's out there, who had other experiences and everything like that. And I didn't know this until, was it a year ago or 2 years? No, it must have been 2 years ago now. I was watching a documentary about many sightings of the Blessed Mother in different areas. And I didn't know this. Most of the sightings, especially in Fatima and Guadalupe and Medjugorje, each where they had the sightings, they saw Michael before they saw Mary. which was really interesting because my experience when I actually saw Mary, that a lot of it matches in not so much Guadalupe, but in Medjugorje and Fatima, that we say the same thing a lot. I mean, it was definitely different. I mean, I didn't get many of tales from her like they did. They got a lot of messages from her and everything. Not that I haven't had messages from her, because she comes through a lot for me. But it was really interesting how I'll say, the one thing that was very interesting is that when she was speaking to me, it sounded like she was singing, and she wasn't singing at all.
Oh,
No,
cool.
it the only thing that I can think of, because I think of things in science, right? And the only thing is, she wasn't singing, but it was the quality of her voice. It sounded like music, but it wasn't in song form or anything like that. So the only thing I can think of is it has to be like a pitch or a vibration. So, but
Cool.
in Medjugorje and Fatima, they said that too. It sounded like she was music, like she was singing. So.
Well, John agrees with you there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I remember I knew, same thing when I saw God. I knew who she was before I was even seeing her. She never had to tell me who she was. You knew, it was like internally, just bam. And it wasn't an assumption. It wasn't like you just assumed who it was. No, you knew. There was no other way to explain it. Same thing as when I saw God, which is really interesting because I was really sick. I was actually, I was very sick at that time. So I remember they didn't figure out, they thought I was having strokes, and I was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And when we just couldn't nail it down that it was my thyroid yet. And I remember sleeping, and I was standing what looked like in a train station terminal. That's the only way I could describe it. It was like the cleanest place ever, but it reminded me of an old-fashioned train station terminal. It's really beautiful architecture that was inside and everything, and there was tons of people walking back and forth. Now, I didn't see any trains, but that's what it reminded me of. And someone walked behind me, and it caught my eye, and I turned. And as soon as I turned and I met his eyes, I knew instantaneously who he was. Instantaneously. Now, I'm not saying that God is a man or anything like that, but probably for me to understand her interpretation, that's what that entity decided to come through as. And like I said, I knew instantaneously who he was. And he smiled at me, and he walked over to me. And the love that I felt from him was so, you can't even describe it. And I remember him walking over to me and holding my hand and just smiling. And it felt like that, like grandfather or father figure love.
Okay.
Knew at that moment I was going to be okay. I was going to be fine. And then he turned and walked away through the crowd. And I always joke and I say, I'm like a child when I see these people, because the things that come out of me is just like a child. And I'm never different being a medium, just because I see other people that, I have people on the other side that I miss and I love, and as he's walking through the crowd, I started screaming after him. I'm like, hey, tell so I said hello. Tell him I love him. I said hello. I'm like, if anybody can get the message, you can. You're the man. You're the main man. You'll get the message. And I remember waking up and just the feeling that you feel. And it was just what I found was interesting, because once again, this is my logic side, but I'm very scientific. I try to figure things out. And the one thing that I found very interesting, in a spiritual sense, you'll hear people say, oh, God is within you. We're all God. No. This, not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong at all. What I experienced, this was a true entity.
Right.
It was it was a true entity. It wasn't just a concept. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't myself. It wasn't my higher self or anything like that. It was a true entity. And like I said, I'm not saying God is a man. I'm not saying anything like that.
Right.
And I still remember my one friend. I remember contacting her and I went, "Oh my God, I saw God." And she's a typical investigator. And your first thought is you have to get into your investigation mode. She was like, "Yeah. And what did he look like?" And I'm like, "Listen, he could have been a dish towel for all I know. All I know is I knew who he was, you know?" And that was actually really interesting. And then I went backwards, and for years, actually, he was coming through to me. But this time it was not even Pictionary or in any form of that. This was it. This was the real deal. So that I actually, and like
That's
I said,
awesome.
yeah, when I woke up, I knew I was going to be okay. And then it was amazing. But like
Well,
I
John
said,
and
the
Anthony,
one,
did you guys ever see God?
Say that again, Jody.
John and Anthony, did you guys ever see God, like in your vision or in your thoughts?
For me, not necessarily God himself. I have seen Michael, like we were talking about. I have heard Mary. I have not seen Mary.
Okay.
But I have seen Gabriel, which
Oh, yeah.
is very different.
Mhm.
Wasn't expecting that one, but never, obviously God himself.
Yeah, same here. I think, if you study it, I mean, usually if God presents himself, is usually when somebody is at a point in their life, usually, as in the case of Athena, possibly near death or some sort of like,
I was critical.
yeah, like a critical event or you've been chosen. If you're chosen, and there's people that claim to be chosen, that God came to them and say, whatever. I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but I think, there's a hierarchy and it's like a transmission. So our brains can only perceive certain things. So when something comes down from the Most High, like if something comes down from somebody really far away in the universe, so that's the main transmitter. So when it comes down, like, the transmission lines, there's big transmission lines, but in order to get the power into our house, it gets smaller and smaller. It goes through different transmission lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's similar to how we receive messages, especially when something that is beyond this kingdom, right? So, but if God visits you, that is considered like a big deal. And I listen to people's testimonies, and I know Athena for you for a while, so I don't think you would make this up or say, but it's rare. Obviously, I mean, in biblical accounts, the person that was chosen by God to deliver very holy, sacred items formed a very sacred lineage, and we know that person is Moses. But we also know that before there was other people too, but Moses really carried this heavy weight. He was visited by God, but he was also given sacred items. He was also God came into him in many different forms, burning bush. So I mean, it can come in many different ways, and because like if you speak openly and say, well, there's a lot of people that speak openly and say, yeah, I see God all the time. It's like, okay. But usually, like I think personally, if God presents himself, it's usually because of something you're going through in your life,
Right.
And,
That's what
like
I believe.
a part of your life where it either to save you or something. I don't know. It just depends, and it's personal. And sometimes some people just will never understand it because
It doesn't always have to be when you're sick, though, right?
No, I don't think so.
I heard him when my son died. I could hear God talking to me.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can receive messages, but you have to be honest with yourself, and I think that's important as a spiritual person to be honest and say, was it God? Was it a messenger? Was it something else? It can be hard to decipher, but usually right away if it is or not. I mean, there's no.
Well, at that point too, I was already dealing with most of what I dealt with for quite some time now.
Yeah.
So, and I actually, because I went through a very bad haunting, and everything. Now, I can't tell you specifically. I've had people tell me, but I'm a very logical person, so I take everything with a grain of salt. and it's funny coming from me, being a medium and everything, but I really do take everything with a grain of salt, and I look at things. But when I went through what I went through, a lot of times I remember that man that was actually helping me, and I still remember him saying to me, you can hear them and I don't think they know what to do with you. But I can hear both sides, and that's the thing. And but that's when the angels came through, and I actually saw Uriel. So Uriel was actually interesting because when I've had my visions, angels that I've realized won't come out and say things in your dream until you recognize that they're an angel.
Okay.
And a lot of times they'll do, from my experience, they'll do something very weird that makes you go, it makes you wake up within the dream. You become lucid within the dream. Now with him, he looked like someone drew him in all white light, and his eyes were white. And all of a sudden, because I kept staring at his eyes, now I was dreaming. So things could be abnormal in your dreams, and that's a dream, and it becomes normal to you. Well, I just kept staring at his eyes, and all of a sudden I realized, no, this isn't right. And I woke up, and he realized I recognized him as an angel. And all of a sudden, from already having a conversation with him, and he realized now I knew he was an angel, and he looked at me, he goes, okay, now I can speak to you.
Oh.
He goes, and at that point, I was very lucid, and he goes, listen, we know who wants you. You know who wants you. And then he's trying to weigh his words, and he goes, but God wants you too. And I said, that's the one. That's the one I choose. That's the one I pick. We'll go with that. And he smiled at me. He goes, okay, then that's what we'll do.
That's awesome.
But I remember that too, him saying, we know who wants you. We know who's after you. And you know too. He said, but God, he wants you too. And I went, that's it. That's the one. I pick door number 3, So, and I still remember that, but it was funny because that's what I've recognized. They really won't, once you recognize them as an angel, that's when they start giving you the messages. Like that's when you become lucid within the dream. And I realized that.
If anybody has any questions for our guest, put them in the chat room and she'll answer them. Sarah has been asked.
I can't see the messages, so someone tell me what the question is.
Okay.
Well, Sarah said she has vivid dreams and can see people and places.
Mm-hmm.
And she experienced sleeping paralysis, but only one time last 2021. So is that normal?
Yeah, a lot of people talk about sleeping paralysis. I believe a couple of different things about sleeping paralysis. So a little bit of sleeping paralysis is, I think, that you wake up but your body's not awake. So you become trapped. A lot of times people will believe that sleeping paralysis is something's holding you down and choking. Now, there's a possibility that could be happening. It's also sometimes that your body is in that stage and your brain is already interpreting it and you have the scariness, and that's in. What I always tell people when things happen, write things down in a journal. A lot of times,
I tell people that too. Yes.
Yeah, always. The first thing, especially if you have a visit or a visitation or anything or any kind of dream or anything, write it down, walk away from it, and come back. Because a lot of times what happens is you're still very emotional and you may interpret things a little different or a little not the right way. Once you write it down and walk away from it and come back, you can actually seeing it for a more normal reason. You can interpret it more of a logical side. That's what's always I've seen within myself when I've done stuff. I realize in the beginning, because a lot of times you're heightened emotion, you're going to interpret things the wrong way, jump to conclusions, And a lot of times, if I write it down, walk away from it, come back, you have a little bit more of a mental stronghold and you can see and interpret it a little bit better. I found that for myself. But yeah, no, you hear a lot of people that have the sleeping paralysis. Another version of it, and to me, logically, it makes a lot more sense because do you ever hear that saying? I forget who had it. It was Sigmund Freud or somebody, and they said, every time I dream, I die. And to me, it's almost the truth because a lot of times you're doing astral projection when you're out, and depends on the level of the projection that you're at, that you'll interpret the dream in different levels, right? Some is more imagination, then you get into lucidity, and that's where you're really traveling. You understand where you are. You understand you're in different dimensional planes and astral projection. Sometimes what happens, I think you jump back into the body a little bit faster. So you're very lucid, you're very awake, but your body is very asleep still.
Oh.
So that's not going to move. Your brain is understanding, and that's a very scary situation.
How about you, John? Do you have those problems?
Not specifically. One of the things I guess I do experience every so often is I can be very engrossed in, like very much involved in a dream. And the unfortunate part is every time when I'm in this involved, I always afterwards I forget the dream. And it drives me up the wall. But there are times where it doesn't matter what time of the night, I will wake up to literally my entire, like, on my head, all the way down to my feet, total goosebumps.
Ooh.
And that is what wakes me up. And it doesn't go away right away. And it's like, I feel like I'm like, when you're outside and you're really cold, and it's almost like your hands, like it's almost like they're stiff and you can't really move them that very well. That's what that feels like. And it's like I have to force myself to move and like wake up to get rid of the, like, even thinking about it now, I get the goosebumps. But it's like I have to force myself to, move and wake up. I wouldn't classify that for me as sleep paralysis, but I would definitely, like, it has something to do with my etheric body, my spiritual body, because the only time I get chills that much is when I'm either doing a reading or I'm at a location and I'm doing psychometry, which of course is feeling work. So it's interesting. Like, so Anthony, like, do you and Sabrina ever have instances like that when you guys are doing your work as well?
Not really. I mean, you would have to talk to her. I don't really do the healing work. She does most of the healing work. So, yeah.
Do you want to say what Sarah's saying there,
one
Anthony?
sleep paralysis experience, and at the time it did freak me out. And I remember it was in the 1990s. I actually presented a research paper to my college class in sociology, and at the college I was doing, because it really affected me, and I wanted to learn more. Of course, I was into a bunch of stuff at the time, metaphysics and spirituality, and it definitely freaked me out because I did see everything that they said, because there's a documentary about it. I think it's on Prime, or so you can watch it. And I saw a dark figure in front of me, and I remember screaming, like, my parents from the other room. I was living with my parents still at the time. I was young, and nobody heard me. So I don't know, did I really scream, or was I in this bubble? Or I don't know, because I
would almost say that was astral projection.
Yeah,
so you could have been on the way to astral projection, but you were still in your body. Because I can honestly say there's been quite a few times that literally, and it wasn't that I was in dream area, but it was astral projection. And the interesting part about it that I realized quite a few times, and even when I had my experiences with Michael, because I had full-blown, he manifested, like full-blown body. But the interesting part was, when I looked outside, I didn't see any wires, no lines. And it was very interesting how that was. My living room looked the same because I remember looking outside. Now, where I live, there's nothing but lines everywhere, laying down everything. And that was the one interesting part is every form that time, I didn't see any lines. And I've had other people say the same thing is things are a little different in astral form in it's almost like this plane within the plane. You're not completely in another dimension. You're still within, you're almost like a ghost in a way, in essence. But you probably had that feeling, and because you were able to see, you're seeing because you're there with them. Mm. So you're going to be able to pick up and see literally what's in that room.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, Sarah wants to know if you're a psychic medium.
I don't know. That's an old term. I don't know. I think
you can sense things. I know you.
I think we all have the gift. I think it's just a matter of if somebody wants to call themselves that or not, and wants to dwell on that and actually train and really practice at it. And I think we all have the gift of intuition. It's part of our mind.
Absolutely.
It's been studied by Dr. Jung and Sigmund Freud and other early psychologists, psychotherapists at the time, who groundbreaking work on the intuitive mind.
Right. She was saying about the color purple. Is that something normal to see when you're going through this?
I think the color is darker. I think it's representative of being further away from light. So it might have something to do with possibly like working on yourself a little bit more, like work on shadow work to kind of focus. If something's dark, something's concealing some of the light. So it's probably something about in their life that they have to reveal some truth or some progress or something that they have to work on.
Yeah, because I heard about color purple being shown up in people's dreams too.
Yeah.
Well, what do they mean?
I wouldn't focus too much on if it's purple or not. Just focus more on the property of it, the metaphysical property of it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So Sarah said a few months ago, I saw a purple spirit while awake for the first time.
It could be the energy of the vibration. Because everything has a vibration and energy level. Because what I always explain to everything is quantum physics. So you have different vibrations and energy. So the spectrums of light on frequencies could vibrate and show in different colors. That's the whole, like your aura and everything. So depending on that, once again, too, is write it down, walk away, because I could say one thing and it might not even have been that completely, depending on when you put everything in context, like exactly what was the dream, what was happening, was that your interpretation, was that your brain interpreting what you were experiencing as well too. But a lot of times that's the same thing too, is how things, it's the same thing as different angels will come in certain ways and stuff, and that's just the frequency of the energy. So it has the light of how it shines and stuff. So it'll be different colors.
Sarah also said my older sister started seeing purple in her dreams since a few years ago. My late father can see ghosts when I was a child, and two of my sisters can see ghosts, etc. Yeah, I mean, for me, it makes a lot of sense, and exactly what Athena and Anthony was saying too. A lot of times for me, whenever I do any work, the first thing that I always read is color, because color has a very broad spectrum, but also very specific sort of message. So for me, purple ties directly to sight. It ties towards, clairvoyance work. So how you're saying that you're seeing the purple all the time. And, it's kind of funny. Oh, it's a little purple shirt. Anyway, squirrel. It's something that a lot of us who, I know, right? I think a lot of us, when we start to work in understanding our gift, we have to come back to the fundamentals of it. And we have
Mhm.
to ask ourselves, like, okay, so if we're seeing these sorts of things, whether it's sign symbols, Romans, like the flower, the balloon that Athena was seeing with that one girl, or seeing other, things, colors, shapes, auras, this, that, and the other,
Mm-hmm.
lines, lights. Each thing has a specific message, and that's where it's interesting for us, because treat it like it's like we're playing charades, or we're
Mhm.
playing like Pictionary, where we're trying to decipher, okay, this picture means this, or this
Right.
situation means that. And it's our job to interpret what that message is behind there. And that's kind of where it comes back to our own free will and our guides to understand, the deeper levels of communicating with the other side, with energy, understanding energy, reading it almost as if it's its own, sign language in a way.
Mhm.
It's its own method of communication that isn't really understood as much. And so it takes other people to kind of come together and be like, okay, this is kind of what I feel. Like, what do you feel? With what you're seeing, like, what is your perspective on it? And these type of conversations, I think, are great, because with Athena talking about quantum physics, talking about the scientific side of it. Now, for me, those who know me, I am not a very sciencey person. I am very not. I am artistic and everything like that to the bone. But I like this sort of talk because everything flows and everything works together, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense based on our own experiences. And that
Mhm.
makes us all get a different perspective. And so even if anybody's who watching now, even us or those who are watching it later, of course, they'll be able
Mm-hmm.
to be like, well, if I really did experience this, it opens that line of communication in a way.
Right.
So I don't know why that all needed to come out, but I think it's just really cool to hear other stories and kind of see how things work.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
Sarah also just said, I don't know much about chakras, but I come across a live video from another psychic in Newsfeed months ago. She was talking about the chakra experiences. And yeah, each chakra, you know, has a different color to it. So
Mhm.
being a
Right.
seer, being clairvoyant, Athena,
Mhm.
each, chakra has its own message, has its own purpose, and it has its own duty, just
Absolutely.
like our physical organs. That's the one way that I compare it. It's like chakras are our spiritual organs. Each one has a
Mhm.
purpose, and you need to make sure every one of them are working. Otherwise, our spiritual body will just be goo. I don't know how else
Well,
to put
Tina,
it.
how did you realize that you had this gift? What what popped out at you to make you realize you had this medium gift?
Oh God. When I was younger, I was always that weird person, like, oh, find
Like
this, or
John?
I would get feelings.
Like John.
Yay! But what really happened was the haunting. It was like a floodgate opened up, and I went from, it was like this major door that opened up, and it was a very interesting and changed my life forever. So I talked to one girl and it just opened up everything. And I remember her saying to me, I know what you're hearing and I know what it is. And next thing I knew, it was just this whirlwind of an experience. And I'm a very logical person, and it was like I jumped down a rabbit hole and never came back. And I remember that's when I started doing investigations, because I wanted to see if I was seeing things, and
Right.
because I was seeing tons of things at my house.
I remember
Um,
those days.
oh my God, yeah. And I literally went to an investigation, and the one person would walk around with a voice recorder, and I would say what I would see. And quite a few times, as I'm saying, I still remember the one time there was this woman, and I said, there's this lady here. And on the recorder, you can hear her going, you can hear me. You can hear me. And, and it was funny. So everything I was seeing, so I didn't care. I wasn't really looking to do investigations. What I wanted to know is I wanted to have some confirmation of, I can see this and you are seeing it. So I knew if I was seeing this here, then what I was seeing at my house was genuine and real. I actually went through 3 psychiatrists because I actually thought I was schizophrenic. I thought something was massively wrong because I was hearing things. But but the interesting part is I was hearing things in Latin, and they were very intelligent words. I mean, you're talking like Harvard. I always said they picked the most stupidest person in the world because half the time I'd be like, hold on, I don't know what you said. I'm pretty sure you just told me off in Harvard. I got to look this up. And it was these words like, there's no way I would know the word. And I remember sitting there and everything was biblical. And I'm a witch. Like, I don't know the Bible. I didn't know anything. So it was, and I'm not saying anything against, but it just went against what I knew. I was being told pages to look up, and I was always trying to debunk myself, thinking, there's no way. I don't, and it wasn't like, oh, just page 2 or page 5. No, it was page this and this sequence and this, and it was there. Books that I never knew existed. So it was interesting. And I would say that to them. I was like, I don't understand. Apparently my schizophrenic self is very religious and very smart. And they would, like I said, Latin, it would be interesting. I still remember the one time I went to, in Kentucky. What's that one in Kentucky?
Bobby Mackey's.
No. The big one.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, Waverly.
Yes. I went there, and it wasn't that I wanted to do the investigation. The demonologist that I was already talking to, he signed up, and I saw that he signed up, and I needed to see him because of what I was already experiencing and going through. I was desperate at that time. So I got on a plane that I was very frightened to do. I went to a place that I didn't want to do an investigation. I just wanted to meet this person. And I was already, and you know what the interesting part was? I was stuck, I shouldn't even say it like that. I wasn't stuck. I was signed up to be with 2 women that were sisters. And they actually had a very severe possession case. Their brother-in-law actually got full possession, actually ended up dying from it.
Oh.
Do you remember Paranormal State?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Remember I Am 6?
Yes, yeah.
That sounds really familiar, yes.
Yeah, well, it was a really big thing. Anyway, she was actually supposed to be in our room. I didn't know about it until I was there. And they weren't telling anybody. And when I was there, the girl was like, listen, she was actually supposed to be at the last moment. I was like, that was the last person in the world I wanted in the room with me right now. I've got my own problem. And I was like, holy cow, thank God she didn't come. But, and it wasn't like I knew. And I thought the synchronicity of it all, like me having my own possession case and everything that I was going through, that I was being put into these situations. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. It wasn't like I looked for it. And here I was. And I remember driving in the car with these 2 women to the house to meet the demonologist that he rented. And on the way, they were talking about something very religious, and they were trying to figure out something, and they were talking to each other. And I kept hearing this one word. And of course, like a child I am, I'm like, hey guys, what's this word mean? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, because I keep hearing this word. And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, okay. And I went and I met the demonologist, and we all went out to eat afterwards. And we're at like this Chinese buffet place, and we're in this long table because there's like 20 of us. I'm at one end and the 2 sisters are over there. All of a sudden I hear this one girl, the one sister, reading off this definition, and she is literally looking at me, and she is white, and she's reading this definition. And I can't tell you, I don't even remember what the word was, but all I know is the definition was exactly explaining what they wanted to know.
Wow.
And this one word. And she was like,
What are the
she's
chances?
just
Huh?
staring at me. And I went, oh, that man. I'm like, that explained what you guys wanted to know. And I just went back to eating. And I was like, okay. And she knew from, it was God's honest truth that there's no way I would know that word because I had no idea what that meant. And it literally meant, it explained what they wanted to know in one word. It was like a heart.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gina says she loves you. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. But it was really funny. And that's how I became a medium, actually in my 30s, believe it or not.
Sarah wants to know if we do paracons.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'll be at the bash. I'll be at Perry
Yes,
Unity.
come to the bash, Sarah. The Battlefield Bash. It's one of the best.
Yep.
And
Love
Penhurst
bash.
Paracon. Penhurst Paracon.
I'll have my cookies at the bash this year.
I want one of your cookies.
Oh,
You gave them to everybody but Jody. By the time I got to you, they were all gone.
I'm sorry. What kind are your favorite, Jody? I'll make sure that you get some.
The one without the chips. The chocolate
Or
chip.
the snickerdoodle? Oh, that's right. The chocolate chip list. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because they're my favorite. So, priority.
Yes. John, you're going to Penhurst, right,
Yes.
John?
Yes. My mom, Amanda, and I were attending Penhurst this year.
You just got to give me more information,
looking...
Gina, so I know when to be there and what you need me to do. Okay. And my grandson's very excited.
Mm-hmm. That'll be fun for you guys for sure. A more in-depth view of the facility.
Oh, Amanda recommends the snickerdoodles. I'll have to try one of them too.
Yeah.
But then you have to have one of my cupcakes and one of my cookies because I do cutouts.
We'll do a trade. We'll trade them.
Okay.
We'll see.
That'll work.
We'll do a trade.
But, you got to go to the bash, Sarah. It's a must. Right,
yes,
Anthony?
the Gettysburg Bash there, Sarah. Here, I'll do this.
Oh, you're not going this year, are you, Anthony?
No, we're not going this year yet because we're a new job and it's harder for me than it is for her. Now it's reversed. So
I know, but I'm gonna have a boo-boo lip because I won't be able to see you.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, Gina, the bash is off, and so is the Paracon. Looking forward to
I got a funny little thing. A few years ago, this was when Bill was still with us.
Oh.
And
it's going to be 3 years, you know that.
Oh my God, is it?
I have it marked on my calendar yet.
Yeah, Freeman. Oh. So the funny part was I ended up buying one of like a cup like you have, John. Like a big mug.
Okay.
I bought it from Megan that was there that does all the glitter mugs and everything. Yeah. And I bought her biggest mug and I found out you can fit like 3 to 4 wine coolers in them suckers. So I filled up that whole wine sucker. I filled it up and I was hugging that thing like a baby the whole time I was at the bash. So at the end of the day,
Bill stole it from you, didn't he?
No. So Bill had, it was funny because I walked up to him and said, are we all going out to dinner? And he goes, yeah. I said, can someone drive me? I'm a little intoxicated, so I can't drive. And he's like, sure. I was like, all right. So I had to wait for him because he was driving and they had the demonology panel.
Okay.
So as we were waiting, I went to Jinju and I was like, hey, let's go in there. Let's go inside. So we snuck inside. It was full as can be, and we snuck into the back. And as we're in the back, of course, little old Athena now is intoxicated. And I'm standing there, and as they're doing the thing at the demonology panel, I kept going, hey, I know that answer. I know that answer. And they were like, yes, Athena. Yes, Athena. And at the end of it, I looked at Jinju. I said, don't ever bring me in here intoxicated again.
You probably made everybody's day.
Oh my God, it was so funny because I kept going, I know that one.
That's
So,
fun.
yeah.
That was like me at the Selma Mansion when James and Nito, when they had a little bit of a
Yeah.
native case panel. I was just like talking. I was like, yeah.
But it was fun. That was
Yeah.
fun.
No, it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I was there.
And James and Nito, wherever you are, come back, please. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. That was fun. I missed
Hi,
James.
Oh,
Friar
if you want to
Bailey.
do stuff for the Selma, they're doing the Selma,
No,
the
April?
craft fair.
In April, right? Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's coming up. And
We
then,
always got something going on. So just.
and what is the other one? The paranormal or the Paracon or whatever.
But
Psychic fair.
the psychic fair, like I said, I don't know if it's. I don't even know. That's not my event. That's her. That's Dee's and.
I know, but the Selma's like, that's where the bitches were born.
Yeah, but they do private investigations like all the time on the weekend. They just had one last weekend. So Saturday they had an investigation. I don't know what group was there, but they had
At the Selma. I saw that.
Mhm.
You were you were at the Selma. I saw you were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for the Masonic Philosophical Society.
Okay.
Yeah.
At Selma?
Yeah, we lost. It's a long story. We had it at West Hill Manor, and we lost that for certain reasons, Masonic reasons, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to find something, and thank goodness they came through for us. At least not that go what we call in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So and then now we have a permanent place. Now for now we have a place with a morgue, which is the Rosicrucian Society.
Okay.
Ooh.
Groups at where they meet up in Philadelphia, and we'll post that. I hope to see any of you.
We're gonna be talking.
Yeah,
She's talking.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
You heard that.
I would love for any
She
of you.
gave you the finger.
It's kind of far
Yeah.
for all of you, but it's really worth it because afterwards we hang and eat and we socialize and.
Uh-huh.
But that building's been there for a while, and they have a lot of awesome books. It's very spiritual. If you're big into metaphysics and spirituality, you'll meet a lot of people that you can talk all sorts of like what we're talking about now. I mean,
Yeah, let us know. I'd like to know.
you're around people that just you can freely talk about that stuff without being looking at them like, yeah, okay,
You know what the interesting part is, like with doing the research and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's the Rosicrucian Society, but I remember watching a documentary a little bit about it, and it was like many, many shows. But one of the things which I found really interesting is they were going into and talking about how a long time ago they believed that Mary and Mary Magdalene were actually high priestess. And they were part, of a thing. So in order to actually bring in, you actually had to be part, and it was more of a ritualistic thing, that you actually had to be of a very, I don't even want to say a high vibration. But yeah, it was a whole thing that they were being prepared and groomed for a very long time to be able to bring in the Christ child.
Wow.
Because you had to be pure. And it was actually really interesting. I actually have to watch the documentary again. It wasn't just one, it was many tales. And I loved how they were, and I want to say it was the Rosicrucian. Yeah.
The Rosicrucians and the Martinists. I know the Martinists are really, really inspiring mystics. That's really,
yeah.
I think that's more the ritual work is mostly probably the Martinists. And that's probably, they probably dwell into that more. I don't know if I was pretty high ranked.
I'm not saying it's accurate or anything, but it was, yeah. I love the documentary of like them just talking and saying their stuff. It's actually interpretations of like what they believed.
That's interesting you talk about Mary Magdalene because I just thought about her the other day because we went to a lecture about the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
oh my God,
I have to get this off my shoulders. So I wanted Athena to chime in this.
Go for it.
What's interesting though, the guy who lectured it, he didn't bring up Charnay. He didn't bring up the French knight who was the one that retrieved the shroud at all. He brought up the royal family of Turan. That's why it's in Turan. He brought up that family, the people that were in power, but he didn't bring up de Charnay or any of the family that held on to the shroud until they passed it on to that, the monarch, whatever. And then most people don't know the shroud was given to the Holy See in 1983. But the fact that he didn't mention it, because he was supposed to do a question and answer after the lecture. He didn't do that. I had one question. It was this. Because they talked about what's the purpose of the shroud? Oh, obviously the resurrection. Okay, we won't get into that. But he did. He went deep in that. But he didn't nail one of the questions, and I think is important, is Mary Magdalene. I find it very interesting that a French knight is the one that had the shroud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did Mary Magdalene spend her last years when she was alive? In southern France, where her shrine.
Yeah, they have her skull.
Yeah, and
that's a little creepy, but yeah,
it was a message. It was her calling, and this man received it. The knight, Charnay, and he had the shroud, but the shroud's in turn because it passed through very powerful people. And I think like the Holy See needs to rethink about where it belongs. Mm-hmm. Mary Magdalene is the one that came first to the tomb. She was there. She witnessed. I mean, she saw him. He thought he was a gardener, and all that. I know, like John and Peter showed up as well. But I believe that the shroud should be with her. I think it needs to be at her shrine. They have the shrine there.
Absolutely, yeah. But the thing is,
a woman. She should be an apostle. It's interesting because the current pope has given her feast day more apostolic, like more apostle. Like he slipped that in, and so she's being treated like an apostle, but it's not official.
Yeah. That was the one thing in the beginning when I was going through everything, and that's when I saw the angels and stuff. Yeah. I actually heard of her and had her name mentioned to me many times, and they would even say Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. And it was many times. And I actually ended up seeing the angels way before I saw Gabriel. Michael was my first one. Well, yeah, Michael was my first one. So that I always saw. He stays with me continuously. And then I saw Uriel, but Gabriel, Uriel, but Mary Magdalene. And then later on, that's when I actually saw the Blessed Mother, Mary. And then I saw Jesus quite a few times. And then I saw, but that was when I was critical, when I saw God and everything. But it was always the angels in the beginning and stuff when I went through. The first in the beginning, it was the demonic stuff. And I went through a lot. And I still remember the one time I was standing what I thought was in my living room. Because it looked like my living room. And my son was, now this was all a dream, but I literally saw myself in my living room. And my son was sitting there. And he was talking to nobody. And I knew in my head who he was talking to. And I said, Hunter, who are you talking to? And he looked at me, he goes, Michael. And he went back to talking to nothing. And then he looked at me because he got a message from, and my son looked at me, he goes, he wanted me to tell you, he had to show you the darkness. And I was like, okay. And that's what I went through. I went through all of like the demonic, the darkness. I mean, the things that I went through, I had to sit down. They went over my sins. I had to go through all of my sins. I remember hearing, repent, repent, repent. The things that I heard, that I was told, I ended up shutting off my hearing because it got very scary, obviously. But once I turned off my hearing, that's when the dream started. It was, they weren't letting me shut them out. And I still remember that. I remember putting my son on the bus and I went back home and I laid down. And when I lay down, I woke up and there was a man leaning over me and he was writing with his finger in my palm because he was mocking me because I shut my hearing off and I started auto writing at that time because I thought, if I want to hear you, I'll hear you. If I don't want to hear you, I'm shutting you off. Because before I could hear, it was like perfect, but it got very scary. And that's when I started auto writing, and that's when the dreams started after that. And he wrote in my hand because he was mocking me that I was auto writing. And he wrote and he whispered in my ear as he was writing in my palm with his finger, going, "You shut me out." And I sat up and there was nobody there. And I could feel the finger in my palm. And there was nobody in the room at all and everything. And then after that, that's when I started getting dreams, and Michael's name would be written, but it wasn't spelled like how we know it to be.
Okay.
But it was this like that.
But
And
you knew what it was.
yeah, because you could hear it. Same
Right.
thing too as when I saw Metatron. The interesting part is even saying it isn't quite how it's really truly pronounced. And but that's as close as I can come. And I still remember that when I came around the corner, because in most of my dreams, I was going to people and I was giving a message, and it was like I was the one giving the message, and I would always be saying to the group of people, "He's coming, he's coming." And the one day I ended up bending over backwards. And I remember bending backwards and I started levitating. And all I kept saying is, and the words would just come through me, "He's coming, he's coming." And I meant God, he's coming. And after that point, I remember walking. And as I was walking, next thing I know, it was the largest thing I've ever seen. It took up the whole sky. And all it was like crystal images, like geometric images, but it was all like crystal based. It had that essence to it. Like it
That's
had
awesome.
so many different colors and everything, but you knew who it was. And it was, like I said, I know we Metatron, but it was pronounced different, but
Okay.
that's what it was.
Well, Sarah had a question. She wants to know if it's true that some people who had death experiences can develop spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
I thought so. I thought that's
Yeah. A lot of times my opinion, once you cross over, you're never fully back. You're one part there, you're one part here.
Gotcha.
Normally,
There's a question for you too from
One foot in
Gina.
the inside, 1 foot in the outside.
yep.
Gina wants to know if John sees angels too.
I mean, I have. I think definitely not as obviously as in depth as what Athena has seen and experienced, but
Right. There's
I've
a reason
seen
why certain people get to see those things. I think it's awesome.
Mhm.
right, and for me and Athena, we were talking about this. I don't remember if it was at Perry Unity or if it was at Selma. We were talking about Michael, and because I was like super excited to talk about him because you're the only other person that I know of that I'm like, to be very blunt, holy shit, you saw him, like that
Right.
sort of thing. And that this
You
is
can be
also
blunt. I
like
don't care.
oh my god, I was only 20. I was just tapping
A
more and
baby.
going
You're
deeper.
just a baby.
I know. I was diving deeper into expanding on, my gifts. And during a reading, I literally, and I think I told you, Athena, I was outside at this client's property, and what they showed me is my hands were, I was holding something, and then I felt this it almost felt like a hug, but it wasn't a very, I don't know how to describe it. I saw these white hands go over top of my hands, and it was like it was protecting me against whatever that was going on around. And
Awesome.
the only other way that I can describe him is that the energy that comes, like his aura, is very loud. It's almost where
Yeah.
it's the frequency is so loud that
Okay.
you can't hear anything else.
Mhm.
And for me, at the time, I was like, what is going on? I don't really know. And it was just really, I was like,
Help
Athena
me.
is the only person I know of that has ever really experienced angels to this depth. So that's why I was talking with you about that. Gabriel was different. Gabriel, to me, he comes with a more, I want to say, motherly type of energy, but it's an assertive, like tough love, motherly type of energy. Does that make sense? And for
The angel,
him,
John.
right?
What was that?
Nothing.
And then he said
I didn't hear you,
he's an
Anthony.
angel.
Oh, okay.
But Gabriel was different because he's like, I forget what the heck I was going through at the time. I was having a very tough time with life. I know we were transitioning in different parts and like various aspects of my life, and it was all happening at once, and it felt like shit was hitting the fan left and right. And I was like, I remember I was in my car and it was one of those moments where you have a frustrated day at work and you just scream in your car. We've all been there. We've all been there.
Yes,
And
yes.
I was just like, what is your reason for all this crap that's going on? What are you trying to show me? And literally, I was at night. I can remember like sitting in the parking lot at work. The parking lot, there's a building that's right there, and it's kind of like a whitish sort of siding, if you will. And I didn't have my lights on or anything, and after I let out my frustration of a scream, and I said all of that, I looked down and I looked straight out, and I saw this feather come down, land on my hood, and then I felt that energy there.
That's a good
And
sign.
to me, I was like, who is this? And my one guide, who was very sassy, she said, Gabriel. I was like, okay. So I would have to assume.
Yeah, feathers are a good sign.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Sarah wants to know what we all do to stay grounded. You want to start?
Did you say Ariel? I'm sorry. Did you say Ariel, John? What did
no,
you say?
Gabriel.
Oh,
Gabriel.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What do you do to stay grounded, Anthony?
What?
What do you do to stay grounded?
Gravity. No, we're on Earth. Anything earthbound. Anything earthbound.
You have to be a smart ass all the time.
No, anything
I love
earthbound.
you.
Anything like even music. Just music we keep earthly playing. Just anything that can just really. I mean, a tree. I would say a tree. Anything that's really, really mountains. Anything that's really grounded to the earth. Like relies on the earth itself. I mean, we're above it. We are part of it. So I would say a tree. Just
Sarah likes your angel behind you, Anthony.
What? Oh yeah, I have two of them. They're not, So this is.
Aren't they nice?
That's funny. It's really funny.
There's that, and then
make us laugh, John. What?
I have already Michael. This is Raphael, I think.
That's nice.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, I collect them all. I don't have them all though. I have them in a hard time with a few of them. We have tons of Michael. I almost said Saint. I don't like to call him Saint.
So I got an interesting thing. Since I have these experiences, like the average person, they want to actually get statues, right? I have had lots of Michael statues, lots of angel statues, because I have a house full of cats. They're evil. And they had broken every single one of my statues. Most of my statues, this poor Michael statue that I have, literally, first they broke off Satan's head. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. That's fine. I don't like Satan either. Next thing I know, I come home, he's been defrocked. He's got no wings. Next thing I know, he's got no head and mostly hands. And he looks like one of those like Italian statues. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're going to piss him off. Let's not piss off the angel. Look, and most of my angel statues either have no heads, they have no arms. Most of them are missing their wings. They defrocked them. I don't know. Cats are evil. So.
But
yeah,
you love them.
Same,
Can't
same
lie.
tendency.
I love every single
Oh,
He
one.
said
you
some
funny.
Earth Angel, Earth Angel.
Yeah, go for it, Anthony. Sing it
He's
to me.
definitely an angel. He's no longer, yeah. He's not.
So, do we have any last words before the show?
Yeah, we got to get going here, I believe.
Oh, sorry, I took
No,
a
Yes,
don't-
dang it. No.
I know.
You were very informative, Athena. We want you to come back.
Yes.
It was
Oh,
a
thank
great
you.
show.
I have so many stories. It's not even fun.
Well, we can have you come back and do that.
I want to hear other
I
stories from
do-
different archangels, not just
Yes.
Michael.
I want to let everybody know, Athena especially. I know you were sharing your angel stories here on Facebook.
Love you too,
Right.
Gina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, this is something that I want to let everybody know. So just like the viewers, even those who will watch us back later on, and also for us too. Facebook themselves, the platform, the whatever it is you want to call it, they are going to, I think starting on June 1st, they are going to eliminate any previously recorded live videos.
Figure.
And what they're doing is they're then going after 30 days. Like let's say this show, like here, for example,
Mhm.
it'll be up for 30 days and then Facebook will be deleting it. So for everyone who's watching, if you have live videos of your own show or, specific ones that you like to go back and reference, be sure to either record it on your own computer or, record audio if you have a digital voice recorder or something. I know you had your angel stories on here. I know you were.
Well, wouldn't it
What's
be
that?
in my won't it be on our Crossroads page? They can't delete all our stuff from there.
Yeah. All of them will be all live
But
videos.
my angel stories are my personal, I just were, writing them.
Well,
Well, not writing, just recording them.
So my thing is just to let you know, yes, I'm glad I got YouTube. Yes, Gina, that's a good thing too. But I just want to let you know because I didn't know if you recorded any of them, like if you just went
Well,
Facebook
that's what I'll
Live.
probably do. Is
No.
go back and put them all on a YouTube for us.
Yeah.
You can get a YouTube channel. We can move to YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that
Yeah.
because I have all my stuff from teen camp and all that kind of stuff. I have all that on my YouTube. But I'll make a Crossroads YouTube and I'll put all this stuff on there.
Yes, but I just want
Thanks
to let
for letting
everybody
me know,
know,
John.
Gina.
I didn't
Yes.
know that.
Are you going to be on YouTube too?
Yeah.
Athena, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
This was
for
a great
listening.
show. Thank you, everybody that was listening and watching and adding to the chat room. We really appreciate it. We will be back probably in about 2 weeks.
Perfect.
We're all very busy, and instead of doing it every week, we're cutting back and just doing it every other week. So
Oh, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
yeah, it's a lot, but we love our guests and we appreciate you coming on and taking the time.
You're
Thank you
on
so
it,
much.
my Doge. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no. We have to cut back on our spending. No.
We'll be back in about 2 weeks, Gay, and we'll make sure you all know. And I'll try to put a YouTube page together with all our videos that you can go back and watch.
Awesome.
We're gonna talk behind the scenes and try to get a YouTube channel. See how that works.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
It's time to start moving up in the life.
Yeah. Love you guys.
Love you guys. See
Good
ya.
night, everybody.